Menopause for me is old age.
Wait, say that again.
I've been celibate for over a year.
So I'm 51. My other half is 39.
So I had a thing where, I used to cross my legs.
Very soon, a lot of men are going to love this podcast more than.
Okay, hi everyone. So fun fact about me, my name is really not Jillian, it's Jelaine. But people tend to have an issue with saying Jelaine, but my parents do call me Jelaine, so my name is Jelaine Burrell. My maiden name is McKay, and Burrell is my married name. I am a wife. I've been married to my sergeant husband for 9 years. We have 4 children. I have 3. My oldest is 25. My daughter is 13. She's going to be 14 in June. And my bonus daughter, who calls me mommy, she will be 13 March 23rd, with my son, who's going to be 25 March 23rd, and then the baby is 7. I am a nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse for 19 years this year, and currently I'm a nurse practitioner. I work in surgery. I'm a nurse practitioner for 2 years, and I am almost finished with my doctorate. So by May this year, with God as my guide, I will have a doctorate like Dr. Tracy to my name. I'm a spiritual person. I feel like God has something great in store for me for His kingdom. I feel like everything that He's doing is for greater things for Him. So, my business, so I'm also an entrepreneur of business. I have several businesses, and I just feel like all of that is leading to something that God wants me to do for Him. I can't really tell what it is yet, but now with this podcast, it's like things are coming to manifestation, so to speak, because it's not just me achieving, now it's impacting, and so that's about me, and glad to be here and to be talking with you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tracy. I have been a nurse practitioner for 13 years, a nurse for 20 years. I got my nursing degree in 2006. Oh my gosh, where has the time gone? And I, like Jill, I have a passion for people. If anybody knows me, they know I'm a talker. I'm always having, somehow heart-to-heart conversations with anyone who I come in contact with. Prior to coming into nursing, I did EMS for 10 years. So I've been in healthcare for 30 plus years, and it's been great. I do not consider what I do a job. I consider it my ministry. I love the opportunity to build relationships with my patients, and I go far and wide beyond just the clinical stuff with my patients, and it's just being led by 1, God, and 2, my passion for people. I'm a mom. I have 1 child who's no longer a child. He's 28 years old. And I've always been a single mom, so I'm very proud of raising a young Black man single-handedly. I'm also an entrepreneur. I had other entrepreneurial ventures in the past, but most recently, I just opened a med spa. So I'm new in the med spa industry, and I am looking to see faces and just have the opportunity to connect with my community on a deeper level.
My name is Kim Sadler, Kim Andrade Sadler. I am a mom of 2, a son and a daughter. I'm an aspiring respiratory therapist. I currently work as a CNA in the capacity with children. I've always, all my life, worked with children, and I seek to speak to the child in each of us. Whenever I talk to anyone, I try to recognize the innocence in you before you were awoke to anything in your adult life when we stop trusting. So I try, whenever I speak to anyone, to identify that first. So anything else that you might have experienced over your life, because we're told of some of who we are, our total life experiences. So whenever I speak to anyone, I think that's my gift. I speak to the innocence of you. So yes, and I'm an entrepreneur. I manage elite entry management services, and yeah, I'm so happy to be here with these wonderful ladies. It's a blessed opportunity as we go forth and using this platform to reach everyone, not just women, men, women, young women, just to minister to everyone who hears our voice through this platform.
So, welcome to the first episode of the FORTYish Podcast. Tonight we're going to be talking about menopause. Why aren't women prepared?
Okay. So first, let's discuss what menopause is, or what state you're at when you experience menopause, and that is missing your menstrual cycle, your period, for 12 months, at least 12 months and more, then your body is in menopause. Perimenopause, which we are not prepared for, just like as preteens we were prepared for, the puberty stage. I'm sure we have sex education in school, or your parents talk to you about, starting to have your periods or your menstrual cycle. But for perimenopause, nobody prepares us, right? So sometimes women experience certain symptoms that, they can't explain what it is, or they go to the doctor and the doctor can't, figure out why is this, and this is why you need knowledge is power. So if we're prepared, we're educated on these symptoms, it can make so much difference in us managing those symptoms, right? So perimenopause can occur anywhere from late 30s to late 40s, right? And sometimes people confuse it with premenopause, and premenopause doesn't have the hormonal changes, right? Premenopause, you're still having your period before the menopause. And then, so the perimenopause is when the hormonal changes occur. And I don't want to go to medical, because want everyone to understand. But when we say hormonal changes, then we have changes in estrogen, progesterone level. And we know when there's imbalance in this, dynamic of, our brain and our ovaries and that relationship, and, our cycle becomes irregular and we don't produce enough of these hormones, it sets our body off balance. We can experience symptoms like, mood swings, hot flashes. Some persons experience bone pain. In fact, insomnia is a big thing. So very important that we, become knowledgeable so we can better prepare. And not that, knowing the knowledge is going to solve the issue, but we can prepare, and then we can have, conversations like we're having now and support like we're having now, because we as women, I'm sure, maybe experiencing some of the things that we're going to talk about, that now you can say, maybe that's what I'm experiencing. Because I'm sure you may be going to the doctor and they can figure it out. And this is why I need to go to a specialist who is going to work you properly and diagnose you and treat you. Help the process better.
So menopause to me is that stage where your body is now preparing for estrogen loss. Perimenopause, coming up before that actual absence of 12 months, your menstruation being absent for 12 months, where you experience usually coming up to our menstruation, I don't know for everyone, for me, like my libido increases. So you notice these small changes, and that's when you're preparing. You're mentally, a lot of us don't know, and I feel like the female body or reproductive system is the least studied under any scientific umbrella. Even I've spoken to many scientists, and they can't answer certain questions as far as how the female body actually works and why it works that way. So it's a lot for anybody, any woman, especially if you're not really conscious or in tune with your body, to really understand what menopause is. And it's different for every one of us. I am 40. I've been 40 for 3 months now. So, and I can honestly tell you, I've been feeling symptoms from 35, but not aware of what these symptoms, what is going on. Like, I am not a caffeine drinker, but I would get like that caffeine rush. I don't drink coffee. I'm not a caffeine. I don't have a caffeine intake, but then I'll feel those feelings coming on, and like, no man, everybody else hot. Like, it's just, and it would be far apart. It wouldn't be just particularly in the winter or in the summer. It will be far apart. So like, I'll feel it this month and 3 months later. Then also, I do have, for me personally, I have irregular periods. So I would not even use that to say if this is what's happening. So for me, it was very difficult to identify certain things.
For me, menopause, personally, on a personal note, and I'm going to just kind of sidestep from what we were taught in the clinical space. For me personally, menopause means I'm entering into a season of my life where now I don't necessarily have to be a mama anymore, right? My son is an adult. All of a sudden now I'm free. Not only am I free from my responsibilities of being a mom, you'll always be a mom, but you know, they call and you just kind of have to wait in the wings until they call on you. But this is the phase in life where now you have to rediscover who you are. So Jill and Kim already established that the definition of menopause is 12 consecutive months without your menstrual cycle. But what else comes with that, right? Very often there are persons who are dealing with the empty nest syndrome. The kids no longer need you. Your identity for all those years has been tied up in, you know, being a wife, being a mom, being, you know, an employee, whatever your job title is. And so this is the phase in life of rediscovery. So for me personally, just to sum it up in one word, it's rediscovery. And I think there are lots of women who are not prepared for this season of life because we don't think there's ever going to be a season of life because we don't think there's ever going to be a time when we're not needed. And I think because in our formative years, in our 20s and our 30s, much of our identities are wrapped up in service, right? We serve as wives, we serve as mothers, we serve as matriarchs or aunts, cousins, sisters. The roles have always been defined, and you can look back at, you know, other persons in your sphere of influence and identify with those topics. However, coming from a background where very often the subject is taboo, we don't necessarily talk about menopause. So that could be a primary reason why we are not prepared.
Okay.
For me personally, menopause represents coming into myself. Coming into myself, identifying the things that, for lack of a better way to say it, me a big woman now. So it's coming into yourself. It's rediscovery, like Dr. Tracy had said. It's rediscovery. It's now knowing that I've been this beautiful person all my life, and now is the real beauty time to shine outside and inside. So for me, menopause is that grounding of self.
Menopause for me is old age. When my girlfriend called me and asked me, "Oh, you're now 45. You might be experiencing perimenopause symptoms." I said, "What? How dare you? What? I feel like I'm 25. Like, don't talk to me about those symptoms." And I was highly, highly offended until I realized that no, menopause is not, it's the stigma that, you know, and that's one of the myths that when you're in menopause or perimenopause, you start experiencing these symptoms that you're old. You're actually not. And if you have that mindset, you won't be aware when you start experiencing these symptoms because, you know, to you, it's like you disassociate yourself, and that's what would happen to me if I didn't come to terms and start, you know, educating myself that, hey, maybe when you're so miserable with Brian, that you're experiencing those estrogen level and irregularities, and that's why, you're having those mood swings. And so if I'm knowledgeable of those things, maybe I can become self-aware, so to speak, and say, stop, Jill, try to control yourself. So I feel that it would help us better. It would better our relationship with our spouse, better our relationship with our friend, once we're knowledgeable, that, we're experiencing this, and then we can get help. If we have to seek medical help, or, just lifestyle changes, start eating better, start working out, start to prepare ourselves really for experiencing insomnia, to try to change certain things, we would be better prepared, on this new transition in our life.
So to piggyback off of you not recognizing that your friend was in perimenopause from the insomnia, I will say this. I mean, I'm probably the only person in the room that's over 50, right?
You look great.
I can. Thank you. Both. Shameless plug. But yeah, even when I started to experience, the changes, the hot flashes, I didn't immediately recognize what it was. I just thought that the room was hot. I thought it was environmental. Didn't really realize that it was really me and everybody else in the room was okay. And so when I started having the hot flashes, I would be like, and then I have a girlfriend who, since I've been 30, she's been so anxious because she's a little older and she's been going through menopause. When her hot flashes come on, she just breaks out into this profuse sweating and she almost wants to rip her clothes off. And so in my head, I thought that's what it was going to look like. But that's not quite what I was experiencing. I just kind of felt like, maybe the room's a little hot. I wasn't sweating at all. So I totally missed it. So it speaks to how everybody's symptoms differ.
I have quite a few friends that are older than I am. And so I've heard of many different symptoms and how the onset of these symptoms. Like I have a friend, she's 47, and she called me yesterday, video calling, and she was doing her car servicing, and she was leaving. Then she just started talking, and she's tired, and just out of nowhere started bursting in tears. She's like, this menopausal thing, and she's like understanding, because you get so overwhelmed with everything and not being able to identify it. And like you had said, Jill had said, with diet and exercise, weight training is so important during this time of life for us women. Weight training, even for men, because as their testosterone level decreases, they also need to strengthen their muscles so they can maintain muscle mass, because we all start losing muscle mass at a very rapid pace, women more than men, as we approach 35, 40. So that exercising, lifestyle changes, big lifestyle changes, very important as we approach these ages. And just for me personally, when I first started feeling anything related to it, I was like, all right, Kim, how are we going to manage this? We read the books, like they tell you barely anything, because not everybody understands how to tell you that at this age, because we're all different. We're so individualized. It assigns different symptoms to everybody. Separate.
And just to add to that, like I said, when we're going through puberty, I'm Jamaican, and we're Jamaicans. In our Caribbean country, certain things are not openly discussed, right? So even for my puberty, my menstrual cycle, I don't think it was my mom who told me. I think I learned it in a sex education class. But I think if our parents, because some of these symptoms can be genetic, like the early onset can be tied to genetics. Your parents had early symptoms. And if this was an open discussion within our family, we would know, like, hey, my mom at this age was experiencing this, and then maybe you could get it early too. I mean, my mom would never talk about those things, but from observation with my mom, I don't see her. My mom is 65, and the only thing I could tie in menopause symptoms with is misery. Like, she's miserable. But what Caribbean people are not miserable?
Strays.
No, for real.
Is she miserable?
No, I'm not miserable. So, but she doesn't have hot flashes. She does not, sometimes she has some pain, aches, here and there. But, the pronounced symptoms that you'll see people, I don't see my mom go through that. So, I think if we have open discussion within our family or parents, to see, the family traits, family dynamics, and that could also help prepare us.
I think that we really have to, spend some time actively working to change the cultural barriers, right? Because to your point, most of us in the room, we're from the islands, primarily Jamaica. I know Antigua is in the house, and we have our American representing. But, culturally speaking, we don't really talk about taboo subjects like menopause, right? So earlier I was sharing that I'm one of 4 girls, and my mom was a nurse, and she's been a nurse since before she had any of us, right? And a large part of nursing and healthcare is educating your patient, and so you learn about menopause in school, in nursing school, and so you would think that it would have been a natural thing for her to come home and talk to her 4 girls about. Wait, pause. I'm still waiting for that conversation about the birds, the bees, and the flowers and the trees. No sex talk in the house. She never came in and told us about her body changes that, in puberty. None of that happened. So I really don't think we're going to get to talk about menopause at this point. But even in terms of observing her and looking back retrospectively on her years when she had to have been going through menopause, she never expressed it. I don't remember my mom ever saying, I'm having a hot flash, or I'm noticing changes with my skin or my hair or my mood or whatever. To your point, she was miserable. But then she was always miserable. So you can't really even tell if it's a menopause thing or if it's just baseline for her.
Yeah.
So we kind of learned to stay out of her way. Maybe she's a little bit more miserable when I was in early 20s. But then I was also pushing boundaries, right?
Yeah.
So was her misery directly related to her own changes, or was it just her being frustrated with parenting a child who's trying to be somewhat defiant?
Right.
I don't know. But I have chosen to parent differently, right? So like with my son, open conversation.
Yeah.
When he was in high school preparing to do college, doing the college search, I sat him down and I had the conversation at the desk with my textbooks open, and we talked about sexually transmitted diseases and the changes he was going to feel in his body and, all of that stuff. And much the same way, if he ever approached me and wanted to know what were the changes I was experiencing now that I'm in my 50s, I am totally comfortable having that conversation with him. So for me, I think our generation has kind of eliminated the whole taboo aspect of talking about it.
Yeah.
I feel like because we have so much obligations outside of ourselves, we really don't pay attention, because if you're aware, that self-awareness again, if you're aware, and it takes a lot to identify, because we're just going, we're programmed to be consumers, so we're just going and to be doers, and we're just going and doing what we got to get done without taking care of ourselves and realizing, all right, then why am I feeling this way? It's to slow down that moment to understand, why am I feeling this way? Because again, our parents did not talk about, my grandmother didn't talk to me about it. I'm sure her mother didn't talk about it. My mom, I had to ask my mom, you're in menopause? Like, what's going on? And, she's way past that age where we said that women should be already in menopause. And she said, but I stopped seeing my period almost 2 years now. I'm like, Mom, but you complain about period like every month, like as if it was actually happening. So sometimes, now I realize that sometimes you still feel the symptoms. So, it's stimulating that conversation where you actually get information without realizing that you're getting information, because then if she's complaining to me monthly and I wasn't aware of what she was saying, then it's sitting down and actually asking those interrogative questions, those curious questions to me, because I like to ask questions. I love asking questions because it's feeding me at the same time, despite that, whatever I want to know, I'm gonna go to the source. I want to know, like, what's happening, what's going on, like, why is it that you're so miserable today? And my son was the one who, my son is 17. Giovanni came to me, he's like, Mom, you're tired, you're yelling, stop. Like, he had to say these things to me for me to realize that, okay, Kim, why are you yelling? Why are you upset when nobody did nothing to upset you. Are you really tired, as he's saying? Like, I had to do those self-analyzing checks to realize that you're projecting something that you don't know if it's hormonal, you don't know if it's fatigue, you really don't know. So it's just that self-awareness and sitting down with yourself and asking yourself those questions to come to light again, to realize what's going on.
So let me ask you guys a question. How does menopause show up in your relationship?
So in my, so in my relationship, my husband and I are 10 years gap. Like, my husband is 35, I'm 45, right? But in my head, I'm 25. Okay. But so now that I was preparing for this podcast or this conversation, self-awareness, I start assessing myself and said, I wonder if when I, was upset about, just little things, maybe I am, because like I said, initially I was in denial. Like when my friend called me and started complaining of her symptoms and said to look into myself to see if I have the same, I literally got offended because I'm like, girl, I feel like I'm 25. You really think? Because I associate menopause with old people, old age, right? And I think that's very important because I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way. Other people out there think that way. So back to your question to say how it shows up in my relationship. Now, when I look back, preparing for this conversation and reading more about and becoming knowledgeable and, speaking to my friends in the same age group, I realized that, maybe there are some little things. Decreased sex, it's not I don't think it's a problem. I think it's okay. But there's like
a problem.
Well, yeah, maybe not yet, but.
So are we preparing? I'm glad you hit that point. So are you preparing for the time where it may actually become an issue? It's not a problem right now.
Right.
But knowing that you're 10 years ahead of your husband, right?
Yes.
And obviously there's going to be a time when he's going to go through some hormonal changes, but you're going to hit that marker first. Yes. How are you preparing?
So that's why this is very important as we speak.
Is it therapy for you, Jill?
It is. I'm telling you, because now I can say, okay, you know what, I'm 10 years older and maybe, so now I have to start looking into things that, okay, if I have back pain and I'm having aches and pain, he's young and in his prime, how, Dr. Tracy, maybe you could give me some advice on that. How can I prepare myself?
Well, okay, I know why you threw it to me too. So full disclosure, I'm also in an age gap relationship, right? So I'm 51, my other half is 39.
Oh. Wait, what's the age gap in that?
I don't know, you don't know.
Well, you see how people judgmental because I'm 10 years and I think 10 years should be the cap. I think if you go.
She's judging. Well, nobody should judge her. You see?
Well, let me just say this.
Right.
Just the same way how you don't feel like you're 45, I don't feel like I'm 51.
And neither of you look it either, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so it's funny because when we met, I didn't think he was that young and he didn't think I was this old, right? And so we had the conversation, and upon discovering the age gap, we had a moment where we were like, all right, so I've lived a little bit more.
Well, Dr. Tracy, wait.
Start
Jill. I'm 35 and you're
39.
39. Somebody calculated for me now. So what? How many years? Oh, 12. Yeah. All right.
So I'm carrying the trophy right now. Yeah, so back to my point. My perspective has always been just be candid, right? I'm a talker. And the thing about me is that I've always been, and I pride myself on being transparent. So when we met and we discovered the age gap, we did have the conversation about what it was going to be, especially when it came to sex, right? Obviously, at my age, there are some changes, right? Thankfully, we're not that bad yet. I mean, can we just go a little bit R-rated?
Yeah, it's 40-ish, right? We all lived a little. We all lived a little, right?
So things are not totally dried up, right? So I don't have that aspect. I don't have that issue yet. But I'm in the back of my mind, I'm always wondering, is this going to be the time where my juices are not going to be flowing? And it does add a level of insecurity. I'm not going to lie, right? It adds a level of insecurity. But my unique situation, I have a history, and this is going to segue back into the medical aspect of things. In my family, there's a history of breast cancer. There's a significant history of breast cancer. So to talk about, the treatment options that include hormone therapy, it is not appropriate for everyone. And so I really am at a crossroads because I'm not the best candidate for hormone replacement therapy because my grandma died from breast cancer, my cousins died from breast cancer, and it's all, if I go through my family tree, it's present, right? I had the conversation with my gynecologist, and it is important for us to talk to our healthcare providers too, because sometimes they get in a routine when they're at work, right? And the speech becomes the same with every patient, that they don't necessarily look at you as an individual. So you as the patient, and even me, when I take off that white coat and that ID, I'm the patient. So I'm sitting in front of my doctor and I'm saying to her, listen, I'm insecure. I know that things are coming down the road. What can I do? And I asked her about hormone replacement therapy, and she told me no. She told me no. And I had a real moment because, again, there's this man who I want to be present for, and him being 39, I am feeling like if I'm not satisfying him, where's he going to go?
Right.
Where does that leave me? Right? And we can talk about it all we want, and he can say, oh, no, baby, I love you. But when nature calls, when nature calls, right? And if he's not satisfied, it's a moment of real potential consequences. You could literally lose a relationship because of menopause, right? So I had the conversation with him, and essentially, thankfully, he's the type of person where he's like, all right, well, when we get to that, we can cross it, right?
Okay. But is the preparation better though? Like, now we said with knowledge where,
so in terms of preparing, the conversation kind of disarmed us, right? So that's good. So my anxiety level, I have to say, not that it's totally, eliminated, but my anxiety level came down from a 10 to probably like a 3. And that really is because he was so receptive to having the conversation with me, and he was very understanding. And again, it's not an issue yet in the bedroom, but at some point, it could be.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I took the initiative of putting myself on DHEA, which is a testosterone precursor. And that kind of helps with A, the libido, but B, also the symptoms, the manifestations of the menopausal symptoms. So, for now, we're rocking and rolling.
So I've been celibate for over a year and 2 months to be exact, if I'm calculating correctly. And recently I had some major changes in my job where I was devastated because I was working at this place for 5 years, and then I was at a crossroad where I was committed to my job, and then I was at a crossroad where it was so much temptations because of course I had bills, so much temptations going on in my mind. Like I cannot start to tell you all the temptations that were going on in my mind. It's either that, it was right after the hurricane in Jamaica. It's either that. So, my family's still back home. So, it was a lot to think about and to process in that moment where I'm on this spiritual journey where I wasn't fully, I wouldn't say I'm 100% into it at that time, like spiritually. But when I lost that job and I realized how much time it was taking from me, from my children, from me personally as a person, I then realized. So I started helping them at church to pack barrels. I was there every day. And once you're at church every day, we're packing barrels. We packed over 30 barrels. We're packing the barrels. So I have to be at youth Sundays, youth Fridays. I have to be on Wednesdays at Bible study. And then Sundays, of course, you're coming to church tomorrow, right? Because we have to do this or so. So I got so pulled in and so drawn in doing everything that as a community. So it's that part of it that kind of pushed me even further. Everybody, church, we prayed for the entire month of January, we fast. I decided intentionally not to fast for January. Instead, I would join in for support. I was there with them every night when through prayer meetings and so on. But February 1st, I decided that, you know what, Kim, because last year I did it for Ramadan and I felt the cleanse in my body. I felt the connection. I realized, oh, you do this when you're feeling that. Like it's that self-actualization. I listen to a lot of Stoic videos and a lot of Stoic books. So, you know, it's coming into self that made me realize that, okay, Kim, there is a higher calling on your life. Tap into it.
So back to what Dr. Tracy was saying, that you know, how you do that. The spiritual realm is so powerful that, trust me, it will overpower the flesh, and that is why she's able to do it and not have sex for 12 months. So well.
Also, if you're always in church,
Oh, poor people.
if you're always in
you have your
church,
accountability partners.
yes.
You have your
But
accountability
also,
partners.
I think there's a lot to be said also by keeping your schedule full, right? Because then you have other things to focus on. And I think when you get to, perfect segue too, when you get to this stage in life, you recognize that your sexuality is not necessarily at the top of the list, right? It's important, but it's not necessarily at the top of the list. So life really, you know, goes on regardless of whether or not, you know, you're symptomatic or it presents itself on a day-to-day basis in a relationship or, you know, as you parent your child or whatever. It just doesn't rise to the top of the list of things that are important.
You know, just to be real, in this stage of our lives, I'm telling you, if you really, and just because Kim was saying, you know, talking about God, and we know that perimenopausal carry a lot of mood swings, and that's why I'm saying that when you align yourself with spiritual things, scriptures, you know, there's a scripture for everything that you get through.
Yes.
Let me just be real with you guys. Like, I was baptized, but I really wasn't, you know, fully doing the things of God. So I had a thing where, you know, I used to cross my legs. It was a kind of masturbating.
I went through that period
and it would feel good, just like you have your legs there.
But you would squeeze like a
yes,
kegel.
and then I would even do something like this.
Sure, you have not
No, you would have to extra
I would do
squeeze.
something.
And squeeze the butt cheeks and extra
I would do
squeeze it.
something like
I
this.
went through that period too.
And it will feel good. And then the more I get into the spirit, it's like God was actually telling me that that was wrong, because when I do it and I feel good, by the time Brian comes home, I don't have sex anymore. I already done crossed my leg and felt very nice. So, you know, for women our ages, and you know, if we are, so we're in relationships and, you know, having, you know, issues like Kim is going through a divorce, I would say just align yourself with the things of God. You'd have a certain guidance, and you won't worry about, you know, certain things, and it would help you too, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, to get through.
And in saying that, I think it's the perfect point for us to say, listen, as women, it's important to have these discussions, right? It's important for us to actually be transparent and comfortable enough to really share our insecurities. It's never an easy thing to really put your own personal insecurities on display. But then when you do that, you recognize that you're not alone. And it gives us the opportunity to kind of break down some of those barriers, right? And so I appreciate our hearty and robust discussion. But now I want to get our audience involved. So.
But it's interesting, right? Because maybe for the past 2 weeks, this is like so aligned with what's been happening for like the past 2 weeks. So, like Jill, like, so I'm 46, right? 46.
Just forget it.
And
That's the menopausal fault.
and my partner is 37. So it's almost a 10-year gap, right? So I've just been noticing like the snappiness of myself. You know, my vision is blurry. I notice that little things that he does. But it's gonna be on YouTube. You might see it.
You might see it. Don't worry about the discussion before you see it.
But in general.
Little things, you know, I'm a little bit snappy. And you know, now subconsciously I'm starting to think like, you know, my body is changing, happening right now. You know, I have these thoughts and I'm not insecure, but now I can't help but feel like I'm almost 10 years older than him, right? Full disclosure, full transparency, like last week we were having sex and he actually spit on it. And I was terrified because I'm just like, what? It's already right? Like, why did it take, like, and I really, like, checked out of the session. Just like, just hurry up and finish.
My mind went somewhere else.
My mind was somewhere else. Like, for the past week, my mind has been
On that.
somewhere else, right? So, you know, it's insane, but it's things that I haven't thought about, right? And you know, like when we say, like I've always had an irregular period, right? So I can't use a missed period for 12 consecutive months as a precursor for perimenopause. I can't use if hot flashes because I'm severely anemic, right? But I do notice. We were talking earlier about like something ear, like
the itching of the ears,
and like I've been using Q-tips like daily, and you know, not realizing now that I'm listening, like, right? Because I'm 46, but in my head I'm 25 too.
Yeah.
You know, when I go pick up my kids, they're like, "Is that your mom?" Yeah. Right? So I don't feel what realistically is happening. So it's just like, what the hell? Like, what do I do?
Right.
You know, so this is like beneficial.
Yes.
Because even though you know, I know perimenopause is a thing, you kind of feel like you're the only one going through it because nobody's talking about it. I didn't, you know you was feeling it. You didn't tell me nothing, right?
Yeah.
My parents didn't talk to me about it. You know, so this is like
Such a big thing, exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you, now that we've had this discussion and there's been some, you know, like the light bulb has gone on for you, is it your intent to have a conversation with your partner?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've been noticing, you know, like my lower back has been hurting, right? And I've been noticing also my period is like very specific. It comes at a specific time, but I've been noticing like a week, maybe 8 days before, it's a little spotting to the point when I was pregnant, like I was mortified, right? But I've been noticing like it's spotting a week or two before the actual cycle. And that's actually one of the So when I have back pains, I kind of try to lead with massaging him, and then kind of low key getting a massage back. I don't want to say my back hurts because I'm like, you right? I try to find ways to go around it, but I do think that it is a conversation that we need to have as far as being transparent because it might be one of those days where I give a reaction that's not normal. I could kind of push him away, and then he could kind of look that way, So it is a conversation that I know that I have.
Yes.
So I want to just highlight that, women in general tend to be a little bit more conversational than men, and we tend to be a little bit more, engaging and transparent, and willing to put ourselves on the altar of shame. Men, not so much. But I think, if we present the subject, in a way where it doesn't then circle back to an attack on his ego, I think a lot of us will feel a lot less insecurity about, even, because the fact of the matter is, whether they're going through the physical changes or not, men are going to get to the point where they're going to have erectile dysfunction, enlarged prostate. They're not going to tell you they're having problems with urination. They're not going to tell you they're having insecurities about not being able to get and maintain an erection. Because the fact of the matter is, there's a real phenomenon called andropause, and we'll leave that for the next session. That's probably episode 2. But, it's important for us to dialogue as two people in a relationship. So you should, you having that insecurity, because you said it's been on your mind for the week, since he did what he did.
Right? And you would think a 36-year-old childish, but he very much gives very mature. So he'll be receptive. I think it's just me just coming to the realization that this is happening. But I know he'll embrace it and he'll work with me and take his time with me. But I think it's just me really like, you're going to be 47.
But then you might also need him to reassure you, right? But if he doesn't know that you're having insecurities about it, you're not going to get the reassurance from him that you need. So it's
kind of going to reassure myself first, right? Because if he leaves tomorrow, I still need to be reassured.
You're not going to lose yourself in a relationship. And I think, in fairness, you should have held back. If you are in a relationship with this man you need to be 100% present with him on every level, right? So I think, transparent dialogue. For me personally, I don't know.
When you're in an age gap relationship, you have to be very confident of yourself.
Yeah.
And, deal with a Caribbean man, like Brian is Jamaican, and he will say, things like, Jill, remember, I still have to give you your medication and put you in bed. Just imagine, we're going through PERIMENOPAUSE, and somebody telling you that. I'm telling you, so you have to be very confident in yourself, as a woman, and at this stage, and that's a whole other issue to deal with age gap relationship.
I am. It was just a spit that threw me off.
I'm drunk.
I'm gonna admit something. I'm 52.
You look good, girl.
You look
All
great.
this talk about atrophy.
Mhm.
I just remember that I had an appointment to go get a check. When I say a check, I mean an aesthetic check.
Okay, how it looks.
But just
If it's producing, okay.
or
A little face before other
it
face.
sounds big. No, I mean,
I know,
it's
that's a real thing. Vaginal
when I went to
rejuvenation.
the website, I was like, "Girl, you look good."
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying out there.
Yeah.
But I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't even associate that with being in
Yeah.
this stage."
Yeah. Because,
But I
okay,
think
so,
now I'm
so,
thinking about it, and I'm like, "Oh my god."
I think you
that
should.
is-
That's good.
That is a part of it.
Yeah.
so that's a real part of it too, right? Because again, we lose collagen in our face, we lose it everywhere.
There.
We also lose it in the vaginal area. So there's a real thing called vaginal rejuvenation, and I know Keisha had mentioned it earlier about treatment options, including the O shot, right? The O shot being a brand of, it's Botox in the peanut. Well, that's the P shot. The O shot is for us, right? So the Botox shot in the clitoris. And then for men, it's Botox in the penis. And it actually helps. And PRP. So there are treatment options that are out there, but if we don't have the discussion,
Nobody knows.
people don't necessarily know that these things are out there and they're available. So see, there you go. You didn't even know about
So
the
I
Botox.
didn't know about it. I'm a healthcare
either.
provider.
Right.
Does what it does plump up the clitoris?
No, so it increases blood flow, and so it restores the sensitivity. You have
So
restoration
it doesn't
of
make
the
it look shrink,
orgasm.
it makes it look
No, yeah, but
You
it's
still think
more
so?
it's more on the sensory side,
okay.
right? So it strengthens the orgasmic, because as we age, a part of menopause is that you don't have those real powerful orgasmic contractions, right? So the O shot helps to restore the feeling. So it's more of the sensory aspect of it. And then they have vaginoplasties, where if you have, enlarged labia, you can actually have aesthetic procedures. But yes, Keisha, you had a point.
Yeah, so for the OSHA that I was talking about, as Dr. Tracy says, it increases stimulation to the clitoris. The PRP is one option for vaginal atrophy. If you're concerned about atrophy, PRP is they use your own plasma, they spin it, they take the plasma from the blood, they inject it into the vaginal walls.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is stimulates collagen, right? With the collagen, now it rejuvenates the elasticity, right? And it also gives what you need water, you need hydrate that area. So that dryness that you were feeling, women complain, oh, it's dry, it's itchy. You think you're having an infection, you go to your GYN, you're not having an infection. It's just because you lost all the collagen there. So these are treatment options. They do have suppository for them, but you have to be very careful. They do contain estrogen, and you have to know your genetic background. If you have any predisposing factors, such as cancer, breast cancer, you cannot use those. But there are other treatment options out there. And also go back to the good KY jelly.
But I'm glad you brought in PRP. The thing that's beautiful about PRP is that it's your own blood, right? So the antibodies are yours. So it's not like you're putting anything foreign in your body. I will say this is not a conversation that you're going to be having with your gynecologist, because really you'll find it more in the aesthetic cosmetic field. This is not really something you're going to find in your gynecology office. So sometimes we just have to look beyond, think outside the box. look beyond your traditional caregivers and you'll find other very valuable treatment options. Anybody else with a question, comment? How we doing?
You sound like you look like you wants to say something.
Well, this is a great time for us to say thank you guys for coming out. Oh, wait a minute. It's not progressive.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. We're not gonna close this out. Okay? Men are expressive. Come on now. So we have one man representing every man that is on the face of this earth. We cannot close out this podcast without getting his perspective
Amen.
on tonight's conversation.
Let me keep it short. I'm learning a lot. Let me say that. And it's amazing that you guys are opening up this platform because a lot of people like me want to know more about it. I think it's an amazing topics, and that's all I have to say. No, because there's a lot I could say, but I'm
We
learning.
want you to say a lot.
I'm learning.
So have you ever experienced a woman going through
Yeah,
her menopausal symptoms in life?
Well, I was gonna say that. So, of course, as a man, I've dealt with all different age groups, fortunately, and I've experienced different things, and I honestly didn't know how to label it as like what is going on. But I hear the complaints, but honestly, I can't feel it, so I really don't know. And as Jill said earlier, and I think Dr. K said also, Tracy, when you're from the Caribbean, a lot of things are taboo. They don't talk about it. It's almost like you think it is something else, something that it's not. We always find a way to make it seem as if it's something else. There's no money or the job, everything else you put it on.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's really biological, these changes in your body. So we often don't label these things and know what they are. So, and it's worse for us as men, because if you don't know, we worse don't know.
True.
Because
Yeah.
we're not feeling it. So I can honestly say that there's a lot of guys out there that don't know nothing about this at all. And I think we should know them.
Yeah.
I think we should.
So we should invite them on.
So
So the next time I'm coming.
All right.
I'm
Right.
gonna bring friends.
Yes.
And I'm gonna make this prediction. Very soon, a lot of men are gonna love this podcast more than women.
Amen.
Oh.
Amen.
This in closing. Sometimes, a lot of times, us as men, we don't understand women, and it results in how we treat them. Sometimes we treat things wrong because we don't understand.
Yeah.
So this podcast is gonna open the door for you to understand, so you can treat your woman better.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And that's why a real man is gonna love this platform.
Yeah.
Real men. Today I have learned so much from my audience as well as from my co-host, the hormonal treatment, surgical treatment. It's so much that I've absorbed from everybody in here, the age gap and our own insecurities, and some of us who are coming into actualization of self. And it all starts with self, for me and for every one of us in here, because as individuals, we have our insecurities, we have our thoughts, and it's those lingering thoughts that gets us when we're experiencing menopause or premenopause. It's those lingering thoughts that direct our feelings that keeps us trapped right here. But like I said, diet and exercise, lifestyle changes, spirituality changes, connecting with yourself and God, it plays a major role, a major part in your journey and your walk through this life, the quality of your life.
I started in my introduction by saying I know that God has a bigger purpose for me, that, I've done a lot of things and I've accomplished a lot of things, but I just know that God wants to use me for His kingdom. And so I met Dr. Tracy, and, Kim can tell you the divine meeting and encounter with her and I, and then now to see that we have this platform, how this come together, just off of our, encounter with each other, or being, oh God, aligned us. And you know how, I'm not sure of Jerry's closing, because he mentioned some specific things that I wasn't even thinking about. And it just hit my spirit that, God, look at that perspective. I wasn't even thinking about that. And this is why this is a great, space. Thank you guys for being here. Thank everyone for their output. Thank you for that, that you said, because now we can think of, moving forward, how we're going to have other topics. So
I want to lead by saying thank you guys so much for engaging us with this very robust discussion about menopause, right? I think the major takeaway that I want everyone to walk out of the room with is to think of menopause not as an endpoint, but as a beginning point, right? This may just be the point in your life where you have to take some time to get to know yourself outside of all the titles that you carry, right? Yes. Who are you as an individual besides being a wife, being a mom, being a girlfriend, being an aunt, a daughter, whatever. Do some introspection, do some soul searching, recognize that, life does go on, even if you feel the changes, right? We just have to pivot, and it can still be beautiful. It can still be wonderful. You still have a lot to offer to society. And so for me, and I hope for you guys, you can think of menopause as the beginning of who you are going forward. I thank you guys so much, so much for joining us on this first taping of the FORTYish Podcast. I look forward to seeing you all in every single episode to come. Thank you so much.
Right, so yeah, so all right. Delete entry for all your door management entry services. From your wristband application, your ticketing, sales and management. Let delete entry be your choice. Your banquets, your ceremonies, birthday parties, events of all types and categories. Elite entry have you covered. Hospitality from the start.
My business is the Rejuvenation Suite Med Spa. I specialize in rejuvenation. Segue to vaginal rejuvenation. I'm not doing vaginal rejuvenation though. So I offer services that include medical grade facials, Botox fillers, PRP, chemical peels, laser hair removal, skin rejuvenation, just a diagnostic skin analysis, and so much more. Anything med spa related. And yes, I'm thinking down the line that I'm going to incorporate hormone balancing and hormone replacement. It's a part of functional medicine. I am certified. So stay tuned. There will be more services being added. But you can find me on all platforms at The Rejuvenation Suite. The website is www.therejuvenationsuite.com. And I look forward to seeing you all there.
So my brand is J McKay. J stands for Jelaine, and McKay is my surname. And I turned it into a brand because under J McKay, I have J McKay Collection, which I have the scrub line, fashionable scrub into healthcare, look good, feel good, do good. Because everybody who knows me knows that I like to look good, feel good, and do good. Then I have the J McKay Medcare, which covers weight management, IV hydration, and other medical, intervention as far as weight. I also am a part of AS1 Laboratory, which I'm partnership with another brand, another business person, and we provide services, DOT examination, drug test, DNA testing, background check. Also, I am an instructor. I do ACLS, BLS, PALS certified instructor with American Heart. And I also do skill training, IV insertion. So, yes. So with that said, please to follow us on this new venture, this new journey, the FORTYish Podcast. We're on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and then we're going to be on Apple.
Yes, we're doing Apple Podcast coming soon.
Okay. Yes.
Where we will be soon located, wherever you get your podcast.
Right. So business entrepreneur is going to be a safe space for women, as you know we discussed earlier, but also other aspects of our lives and business venture and just supporting each other. So follow us.
We ask you guys also, we literally just formed our YouTube channel. We don't even have one subscriber, so we ask that you guys like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, the FORTYish Podcast.
Hit that
Happy
notification
International.
bell.
Remember, it's
Oh,
International
yes.
Women's
Hit that
Day.
notification bell so each time
And
we
drop an
upload, you drop
episode.
something in the episode, you are first to
know.
see it.
Yes.
So happy International.
Happy International Women's Month, and we ask that you look for us to drop this particular episode tomorrow because it is International Women's Day. So thank you guys yet again for being here with us, and happy International Women's Month. We want to take a moment to give a big shout out to our sponsors. The first sponsor we're going to shout out is Lux V Events. She provided us today with the chairs, the seatings for all your event needs, baby showers, bridal showers, graduation parties, kids' birthdays, retirement parties, birthday parties, brunch, anything event related. You can reach out to Lux V Events. She is reachable at 631-796-6319 or 914-233-73. The number is cut off. I'm sorry.
Okay. Or follow her on our Instagram.
And her address is 58 Gramercy Avenue in Mount Vernon, New York, 10550. I'm sure if you Google that, you'll find her. All right. But again, the telephone number is 631-796-7319. Thank you, Lux Event, for providing the seating.
Okay. And I also, another sponsor that we have that provide us with, well, me actually, I wear my waist trainer. Tracy didn't wear hers because her body's already snatched.
She's trying to say that I need it.
But-
Why I feel like judgment just entered the room.
But petite ladies for sponsoring me with my waist trainer. Make my belly snatch. Thank you so much. So for all the women, FORTYish women, 40ish, because we know when the estrogen is reduced, the fat start going in places it shouldn't, right? It comes from the hip and the butt and goes in the abdomen, and we need a waist trainer. So Petite, you can follow her at Petite Ladies LLC for all your snatch garments.